I'm trying to platinum Death Stranding 2 in the hardest way possible by beating it on its hardest difficulty, brutal, completely blind with no trophy guide to help me along the way. As I go for all 55 trophies, which will require me to make thousands of deliveries as I try to reconnect both Mexico and Australia in a massive grind that would bring me to absolute rage and even tears. Before jumping right into it though, I want to give PlayStation a huge shout out for sponsoring this video and hooking me up with an early code. And for those of you who want to experience the story for yourselves, don't worry, there will be no major story spoilers in this video, along with a link in the description to buy the game if you haven't already. Kicking things off, the story opens up with Sam and Lou making their way back home, and I just couldn't resist wasting just a little bit of time here. Oh, so cute. Little baby. Little baby. This is crazy, dude. I'm literally it's awesome. We would continue making our way down from there, where I would have no choice but to use a ladder. Surprisingly though, it ended up unlocking our first trophy of the game, my first structure. Eventually making it back home before getting a visit from Fragile, who convinces Sam to join her company and reconnect Mexico in order to clear his name with the UCA. He agrees, and we set off on what becomes the start of an epic adventure as Fragile stays behind to watch over Lou. Bye, Lou. I don't want to leave you here.
Not to get Fragile into trouble.
Now in Mexico, the real game would begin, as I had to deliver a bunch of packages to every single facility here while bringing them all into the network using a Q-tip. I mean Cupid. With the first one here, unlocking the trophy starting point. Yes, starting point. Let's go! From there, I clearly needed a shower, so I headed to the private room where I got another really easy trophy for simply reading a text message. Yo, a first glimpse of the SSS. Read an SSS post for the first time. Let's go. The next one, though, would take a little more effort because for the trophy, my first training session, I had to complete a VR training program for the first time. There we go. And done. Let's go. S rank. Yo, my first training session. I headed back out into the open world from there, but not before getting yet another trophy for liking someone's sign. Congrats, Tender Zombie, whoever you are, you made it into the video. At this point, it was raining trophies, and the train didn't stop there, because after making a delivery over to the next facility, I got yet another trophy after receiving over 2,400 likes for completing orders. Followed quickly by the trophy helping people to connect for completing my first aid request. But it was after connecting the next two facilities here, the brutal difficulty would quickly set in, with my first boss fight against a gigantic BT. I'm supposed to fight that? Oh, just throwing me right into it. That's fantastic. Oh my god, dude. No way. Give me that. Give me that. Thank you. Get that. Here. Have another one. Oh, did I dodge that? Let's go. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's go! You're almost done. Let's get it. Yes! Let's go! With that boss finally down, I went on to connect the last two facilities here in Mexico and even got them up to 5 stars after a few hours. Because in order to get the platinum trophy later, I would have to do this with every single facility in the game, with nearly 40 of them in total. So with that massive grind ahead of me, it was nice to at least get one more delivery related trophy here for reaching a total distance traveled of 80 kilometers with a single order, before picking up the story again and wrapping up both episode 1 and 2 for 2 more trophies. We were then introduced to a few new characters after Sam decided to join Fragile's crew in the DHV Magellan, including Tarman, his cat, and my personal favorite, Dalman, who would join us on this journey to offer up some words of wisdom. Sound familiar?
Really, Sam? Your buttocks?
Is that a God of War reference?
I prefer the driver's seat.
Later heading back out where I would notice a damaged structure built by someone else. So I decided to fix it in hopes of getting another trophy, and it actually worked. We'll see. Yes, let's go, emergency worker. I knew it. Now this would be my experience for the entire trophy hunt, as I experimented with just about everything trying to get trophies to pop, as I had nothing to go off of, resulting in dozens of hours wasted for literally no reason. But I didn't always come up dry, like in this instance after making my first supply request. Oh, there it is. Promising signs. Let's go. At this point, I did everything I could possibly do in Mexico, so I packed it up and headed off to Australia through a plate gate, rejoining the crew at the DHV Magellan afterwards, where we would meet another new character. Hideo Kojima, bro. From there, I unlocked a pass enhancements, which were unique skills that would make Sam's life a little easier here down under. And after unlocking the first one, I got the trophy self-improvement. Hey, self-improvement, let's go. Activate an A-pass enhancement for the first time. Ready to head back out, and at this point, the grind would truly begin as I linked up one facility after another, all while dealing with survivalists and even BTs. Oh no, get me out of here. Get me out of here. Holy shit, I wasn't ready for this. There we go. Holy bro, that was intense. Later unlocking every Death Stranding player's worst nightmare from the first game, standard orders. For context, the original game required you to S rank 80 of these on the hardest difficulty for the trophy growth of a legend, so I assumed it would be the same case here. Notice how I said assumed, but just like the first game, I did get a trophy for completing the very first one, along with the trophy heavy lifter for delivering over 2 tons worth of cargo. Something else new I noticed in Australia compared to Mexico right away was the ability to construct roads, which was really nice because the terrain here was a lot harder to traverse through in comparison. Problem was, it cost a ton of materials, but I just had to try my luck. There we go. Trophy time? That would be nice. Unless you got to repair the whole road. Road restorer, let's go, dude. Restore one section of road. I bet you there's one for restoring all of them. Remember how I said earlier in the video I wasted dozens of hours for no reason trying to figure out all the trophies? Yeah. Imagine the pain I felt when the trophy list finally did come out and having to rebuild all the roads was nowhere to be found on it. I continued unlocking more facilities and knocking out deliveries from there, and for all that hard work, I got the next trophy, a Porter of Peak Popularity, after reaching over 50,000 likes for completing orders. Must be nice to get 50k likes. Couldn't be me. Later taking on our next boss, sent by Higgs himself, who somehow was still alive after the first game. But I'll let you figure that out because no spoilers, remember? Already, dude. Oh, that fucking hurt, bro. Holy sh. Ooh-wee. Jumping like MJ over here, bro. Ah. Me, dude. Oh no, not like that, bro. I think I got one more chance here. What am I doing? Oh, we're good, we're good. Okay, come on, obliterate him. Let's go! Let's go! With that done, we would head over to a new area of Australia that was home to even more facilities. For once there, I got the trophy Help Us Bring Australia into the network, before meeting another new character, Brainy. Couldn't tell you how she got that name though. This is a whole performance. Our next stop would be the animal shelter, but standing in my way was a very small and definitely manageable fire. We might be able to just drive over this, but I don't have a chance of that.
Look out, Sam! Fire! We need to get away from here as quickly as possible.
I'm trying. I can't see anything, brother. Can't even move right now. Once at the animal shelter, though, we linked them up with the Cupid and would make a few trips back later as they would help us get a few more trophies. But in the meantime, I got one here for wrapping up episode 4. Yo, we'll show the world hope in your reign. Oh, episode 4 is done. Let's go. Now, episode 5 would mostly be a very lengthy boss fight against someone you saw introduced in the trailers, Nirvana, or as I like to call him for copyright reasons, Liquid Lizard. Just think about it. You'll get it. Just gotta show him putting it on again. He already had it on. Come on, come on. Oh. The freezing thing threw me off. You're mine. Nope. I'm running away. Oh, God. Let's go. Got him, dude! Right on the brink of death. Yo, did he say Nirvana? Complete episode 5. Let's go. Following that, we would meet another new character, Tomorrow, who was a little awkward. Before jumping back on the delivery grind, starting with the animal shelter again, after delivering my first animal, I got the trophy Creature Comforter. I then linked up some new facilities on this northwestern side of Australia, starting with... Wait, Lisa? Lisa? While making the rounds here, I also got the next trophy for delivering over 500 pieces of cargo. Deliver a total of 500 pieces of cargo. Oh my God, I did that many already? And while on my way to the next stop, I spotted the most adorable golden creature. So I did what anybody else would do with this cute and cuddly little thing. Yo, Whoa, Conqueror of the Golden CC. Defeat the golden chiral creature. I didn't even know that was a trophy, bro. But my next delivery was a weird one because it wasn't something like building materials or medical equipment. No, it was this guy. Known as the Adventurer, this dude would go on to haunt me for the rest of my journey, though I didn't realize it at the time. Kojima. Also throughout my playthrough, and much like roads, were a ton of tracks and mines stationed along the outer ridge. In an effort to get more trophies, I dumped a ton of resources into them until eventually all that hard work actually paid off when I got 2 trophies back to back. Yes! Restore and fully reopen a monorail line. Let's go. Dig. What is that? Restore 3 mines, let's go! But also, just like the roads, the tracks would be spread out all across Australia. So surely, there had to be a trophy for restoring them all, right? Remember how I said earlier in the video, I wasted dozens of hours for no reason trying to figure out all the trophies. Yeah, same deal here. But on the bright side, I did get another trophy for knocking out episode 6 after reaching the next facility, along with a sweet parting gift on my way out. Oh, God. Oh.
Please take good care of him.
Thanks for the parting gift. For the next 10 or so hours, I powered through all the new facilities that had just unlocked here in episode 7. But by the end of it, I was extremely exhausted. But luckily for us, the last place up north here had a hot spring. So I jumped right in for a little R&R. Yo, written in the stars. Study the night sky for the first time.
This is living.
Huh? It's pulling us in.
What? Huh?
Where in the world are we?
So yeah, we ended up back in the facility from before. You know, the one with the vomit lady. And it's here she gave us our very own dowsing machine that we could use to find even more hot springs like this, along with the submission to help us find our very first one, which unlocked the trophy Spring into Life. Yes, Spring into Life. Take a hot spring for the first time. Let's go, dude. Now, this was the first of many hot springs hidden throughout Australia. So surely there had to be a trophy for finding every single one, right? Right? Remember how I said earlier. Oh, all right. You get the point. And look, it wasn't all that bad. I loved every second of this game, even though I did a lot of things I didn't have to do. And every once in a while, they would actually lead to incredible moments like this one. God, what the hell's going on? I'm fighting with the pizza chef. You almost ruined the pizza. You gotta be careful. Who directed this? The Raid Redemption guys? What the hell? This is insane. Gotta take care of the pizza, man. That's good. I think that's good. Always prioritize the pizza.
God.
Right? Let's go.
Thank you again.
Yo, so you're the pizza chef. I was about to say, I better get a trophy for that. I not only got a trophy for that, but I also learned the art of pizza dough karate, which allowed me to one-shot enemies with, you guessed it, pizza dough. Oh, it worked. Holy From there, I picked up the story again, which opened up all the facilities in the center of the map. But even more importantly, got us another trophy for completing episode 7, Sam the Man in the dark about everything. Which, to be honest, better described me at this moment trying to figure out how to get all these trophies. Good news though is that I was 50% done connecting Australia to the network. Bad news, we had to get through Nirvana yet again before I could continue on anymore. This fight is crazy, dude. Just being able to jump around like this. Hey, buddy. How's it hanging? What are you doing back here? Hi. Trying to sneak up on me, huh? Just take the L, bro. Got him. Let's go. Not today, Liquid Lizard. With Liquid Lizard down for a second time. With Nirvana down for a second time, I was now free to explore this mountainous portion of Australia and connect even more facilities with a Cupid. After I snapped some photos of the girls for for research purposes. Eventually reaching the Ghost Hunter, who alone would help us get 3 trophies in this playthrough after doing some investigations for him. The first was to look into a rumor about some headless riders, who just so happened to hack the road terminal here, where after recreating the conditions that got other porters attacked, I had to take on 3 ghost mechs in a pretty epic death race.
Bro, this is crazy. Dude, that is sick. Holy shit, bro.
Off my freeway, I said. Come on, man. What did I tell you? Get out of here, bitch. Let's go! The Headless Rider's unmasked! Let's go! The other 2 trophies we'll get from working with the Ghost Hunter are just as cool, but we'll circle back to those later. Because in the meantime, I had to grind out all the other facilities up to 5 stars. Where after working on that for another dozen hours or so, I got the Silver Trophy at Premier Porter for reaching a grade of 40 or higher in all categories. Doing all that eventually unlocked EX Capture Grenades, which you could use to catch BTs and have them fight alongside you. Yeah. You heard that right. So of course I had to put them to the test.
Right here. Here you go.
Yo, I knew it! BT's best friend, capture a large BT for the first time. Now, one thing I noticed up to this point in the playthrough is that I would always see these random porters walking around making deliveries too. And every time I went up to them, they would offer me some free stuff. Thinking they were just being nice, I later realized they were actually trying to barter with me. After one day having the bright idea to give them something in return. Yes! Porters make the world go round. Let's go, dude. I never thought to do that on my own. So yeah, this whole time I had been straight up stealing from these dudes. Whoops. I continued experimenting with everything from there, desperately trying to get more trophies to pop. So I thought about changing the background of my private room. After using a photo I took earlier of Dahlman, I actually popped another trophy. Let's go, making it your own. From there, I chipped away at even more facilities in the higher regions of this snowy mountain area, where we once again had to rescue somebody. And surprise, surprise.
This guy again? Jeez.
What a relief. He's still breathing. You can put him in a protective bag and carry him home.
Didn't we save this man once before?
Yes, we did. Oh no. Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead now. Get this guy away from me. I don't ever want to see him again. I swear to God, if you give me some corny thumbs up, dude, I'm gonna snap. I don't want to see it. With that done, episode 8 was a wrap, which meant another trophy. So I continued blazing through deliveries until getting a request from a local fisherman to take out a giant BT. The only problem was this BT wouldn't come out of hiding. So we devised a plan to draw him out by catching another BT and using it as bait. You work for me now. Holy sh! What the f was that? Oh! This is gonna be a bitch, dude. Luckily, he's like not knocking me off of platforms, which is good. Oh, showed out the turtle lake. I got him. Oh, what a throw, bro. The next trophy here came randomly. You see, up to this point, I had been delivering every single animal I found to the animal shelter, thinking eventually it would unlock a trophy for reaching a certain amount. And while that ended up not being the case, which meant even more wasted time, I did end up getting a trophy anyway for finding an albino animal by complete accident. From there, I wrapped up all the facilities on the east side of Australia, which concluded episode 9 and got us the trophy I don't break that easily. Yo, I don't break that easily. Complete episode 9 puppets. Let's go. Before making my way down south and connecting most of those facilities to the network too, which wrapped up episode 10, but also meant one last showdown with Nirvana. And this was the trippiest one yet. I got rockets too now. Hurt. Oh no. Man. Just die, bro. Or don't die. Give me answers. Just give me answers. There we go. Woo-hoo. Barely, dude. Yo, keep Lou safe. Complete episode 11 quick. With just one facility left, I decided at this point to power through the rest of the story completely, knocking out episodes 12 through 16 as I bared witness to one of the best stories I've ever experienced in a video game, bringing me to literal tears and unlocking our next 5 trophies. With the story complete, I found out I actually had 2 more facilities left to connect. So I immediately headed out to do just that, starting with the B-Pass facility. Let's go! Keep on connecting! Connect all facilities using your Cupid. Let's go! And followed by Mr. Impossible, who ended up not being 1, but 2 dudes you probably recognize.
Can you become found the ultimate bad who rises to our challenge.
Thanks, bro. Hey, keep in touch, would ya? Do some more for us. Yeah, like those orders we just posted for you.
You'll find them all sprinkled about the place.
And each is designed to push your to the breaking point.
Yeah, that challenge you just heard these was talking about would be the cause of the blood-curdling rage you saw at the beginning of the video. So we'll definitely get there in a minute. Because in the meantime, I had to start cleaning up everything else here first, which included reaching 5 stars with every facility, as I had about 15 remaining at this point, along with chipping away at all the miscellaneous trophies I had left. But lucky for me, the full list had just been released that day on PowerPix's website, so I had a much better understanding of what to go for now, though I still didn't have an actual guide. I then headed back to the Ghost Hunter and discovered he wasn't even there anymore, pretty much vanishing without a trace, and unlocking our next trophy, the real story of the Ghost Hunter. Yo, the real story of the Ghost Hunter. Oh wow. Before having to rescue the adventurer again, not once, not twice, but 3 more times. Like, bro, can you just stay home? Do not give me a thumbs up again. And I better hit 5 stars here because I'm done with this guy. You gotta be shitting me, dude. Don't you do it. Don't you do it again. For the trophy, the scars left by giants, I had to arrive at the BT Nexus in the F3 crater. Now, initially, I didn't know what this meant, but then I remembered a few people in the story mentioning that in the past, there was a massive void out in the most northern part of the map. So I went to go check it out. Only problem was this crater was actually on an island, with seemingly no way to get there with the tar being too deep, until I discovered a secret path. Hold on, this is pretty close right here. Oh, right here. There's a path. There's something over there. Oh, there it is. The scars left by giants. Now, there was one other trophy that I couldn't make sense of either, and that was Savior of Terminal Fort Knot, which required me to prevent that facility from falling victim to a void out. Now, initially, I thought this would be just another story trophy, but after beating the game, it turned out to not be the case. Instead, it was tied to the Ghost Hunter yet again, because after delivering a few more packages to him, he would eventually turn back up and warn us about the upcoming void out we were waiting for.
That is one massive BP.
Holy
Did it come from the...
That shit is nutsack. Dang!
Now's your chance to attack.
Dude, I've been attacking. What do you mean, brother? Looks like he's charging up for something, bro. And I'm just trying to kill him as fast as I can. Don't you fucking do anything, please. I don't want to take any more damage. I need to S rank for this. Let's go! Savior of Terminal Fort Knot. Got it. From there, I just kept chipping away at 5-star ranks, with all roads eventually leading back to these guys, who had one last impossible mission for me, which I thought would be just as easy as the rest of their challenges, until it wasn't.
So we've gone ahead and prepared an ultimate challenge.
Oh, that's why.
Just for you.
It's the most impossible of impossible orders.
But a badass like you could surely prove us wrong.
And we're hoping that you do.
Pick up the sub-order when you're ready to show us how it's done.
Recover all the hazardous chiral sculptures from the armed hostiles in an extremely difficult order, considered to be almost impossible to complete. You'll need to carefully set up your delivery network and ensure you have all the equipment you need. You also won't be able to save during the course of this order. Are you sure you're ready to proceed? Wow. How am I stuck? Ruined pickup offloader. Oh no. Oh no. What is going on? No shot. You just did that to me. No shot, dude. That was such a good run. I gotta do this all over again, man. Oh my God. I love how they're just shooting through walls. Like, no. Oh no, this is a boss fight and I'm stuck right in the middle of it. What kind of up luck do I have in this world that this is my situation, bro? No! You know what? I'm turning this in. I don't care about the time limit. I'll take an F rank. I don't care. Okay, bumpy ride. Gotta be careful here. Do not want the car to break. No need to rush. We got 4.5 minutes and they're just down the hill. I promise I'm not doing that. I'm holding the brake. The car is just still going. Oh my God. I'm gonna cry, dude. Your car could literally break down at the front door and you're screwed. Or we could have like forgot one of them or something. I don't know, dude. Let's hope for the best. What's impossible? You thought that was impossible? Come on. That's good, but I mean, oh, I don't care. They're 5 stars now. Let's go! I now just had one facility left, and I bet you can guess exactly who it was.
Seems to have vanished into thin air.
Yeah, I had to rescue the adventurer again, this time getting sucked up by a BT and teleported back to the Nexus from earlier for another boss fight, which actually wasn't too bad. Bang! Let's go, baby! You're not touching my adventurer. I've grown to like the guy, okay? And after taking both BTs out, saving the adventurer for the last time, and hitting 5 stars at his facility, I finally got the trophy. Let's go! Connecting hearts and minds! Yes! The next trophy, Master Builder, required me to build every structure type, which was odd because I felt like I had done that already ages ago until I noticed the trophy description also included the deployable shield and electric traps. So I picked some up, and after setting them down, I finally got it. Oh, there it is! Master Builder! Well, that was quick. It was only 2 things I needed. I was now down to the last 2 trophies of the game. The first one required me to complete 10 standard orders of each type with an S rank on any difficulty. A far cry from the 80 orders you had to do from the first game on the hardest difficulty, which was a bummer because all the way up to this point, I already had 91 Legends of Legends medal. But regardless, I quickly knocked it out after seeing I only needed to do 2 more destruction orders. Yes, come on.
I'm stunned.
Season Porter, which means
Fight like that.
Platinum, baby, let's go! Now you might have noticed that even though I just got the Platinum, my tracker is still showing 54 out of 55 trophies. And that is for a reason, because I really wanted to save this trophy for last.
Do you have a moment, Sam?
All right, give me that trophy. Let's go! A private show, got it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had an amazing time with Death Stranding 2 and never wanted it to end. Which reminds me, I haven't Platinum Death Stranding 1 yet. So if that's something you want to see, then be sure to like the video and drop a comment down below. Thanks again to PlayStation for sponsoring this video. I'll catch you guys on the next one.